I always struggled with feeling like I had to prove myself. I just want to walk as close to Jesus as possible. It's God wrapping his arms around you and saying, I love you more than you can even begin to understand. We don't have to earn that love.
Welcome to the Crucible Project Podcast. The Crucible Project is a nonprofit organization committed to creating a world of men and women who live with integrity, grace, and courage, helping them to fulfill their God-given purpose. This podcast will discuss important and sometimes difficult topics while delivering practical life applications with men and women who are currently practicing this work. We are igniting Christ-like change in men and women through experiences of radical honesty and grace.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crucible Project Podcast. My name is Andy Spell, and I'm going to be your interviewer for today. I'm really excited to have our guest, Gordon Decker, on here today. So, Gordon, welcome, and would you please tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Andy, for having me today. I live in Rapid City, South Dakota. I serve with a international Christian ministry called the Navigators. I was adopted at birth to an Air Force family, lived in Germany and had at least 8 different homes before the age of 16, and went into law enforcement and military, did some time in the business sector. God got my attention at the age of 40. So that's right. The most important thing in my life was God drew me in at the age of 40 through a short-term mission trip. And I remember thinking I had 8 years left for full retirement in law enforcement. And I was like, God, I can't wait to see what we do in 8 years. And I was out of law enforcement in 8 months. And it took me into the business world, took me into some different entrepreneurial efforts, some different ministry efforts, owned my own business for a while. But ultimately, 3.5 years ago, I joined the Navigators, and I definitely know that's where God wants me for now.
That is awesome. So we're going to talk about the Navigators just a little bit on down the road, because I want to know what that's all about. Like I told you earlier, I've heard about it. I don't know if I even know what it is. I know the name. So we will talk about that. I know you did an initial weekend, a Crucible weekend. So let's talk about that first, and then we're going to go into other things. And I want to ask about your childhood and growing up and some of those things for sure. So how did you hear about the Crucible Project?
So I had a really good friend of mine that had moved to Rapid City. He's a realtor, name's Arnie Sharp. And he'd been telling me about the Crucible Project for at least 3 years and telling me that it was different. And he couldn't tell me everything that we did, but it was so good to consider it. And I was like, yeah, it sounds good. And I'd like to say I consider myself a lifelong learner. So I'm always open to learning opportunities. And so I was always watching for it, but it never seemed to come right up on the radar, like right now. And I remember my dad and my sister lives in Minneapolis, and my dad needed to spend some time with my sister. And I was going to take him over there because he wasn't able to drive due to his eyesight. And I was like, I wonder if there's any chance there's a Crucible weekend. And right in the time frame that I wanted to take my dad to see my sister and let them have some time together, there was a Crucible weekend in Minneapolis, which is about 8 hours away from me. So I was like, I think I'm supposed to go.
Dude, that is awesome. Hey, I actually led the Minnesota weekend like 3 years ago. That's another story. We'll talk about that sometime. I love that area up there. Those guys are great. So
they are great.
So you decided you wanted to go. And as you went on the weekend, what did you want for yourself?
I wanted to grow closer to God, to Jesus, as I knew him. I really felt that there were some things that were holding me back from just accepting whatever God had for me. I always struggled with feeling like I had to prove myself, or was I doing enough? Was I doing it the right way? And oftentimes other people's opinion of me got in the way, or what other people thought I should do. And so I remember working through the pre-work assignments and doing the interview. And I was just like, I just want to walk as close to Jesus as possible.
That's awesome. And where do you think some of that opinion of me, what people think, am I doing this the right way? Am I doing it good? All those questions that we have sometimes, where do you think those were coming from?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm definitely still in the process of learning that. I'm definitely putting in the work. Adopted at birth, raised by a mentally ill mother who raised me to be a people pleaser, to be a good person and do good things and prove my worth by being a good boy. And I was the good son. And I tried everything I could to earn earn her love, I guess is what I would say. She passed away 3 years ago. She passed in peace, and her and I had a good relationship at the end, but it was hard to grow up under a mother that just was like, are you doing enough? Are you doing it the way that she wanted me to do it? That kind of stuff. So Crucible and other places have helped me kind of work through my family of origin issues, I would say.
Yeah. And isn't it funny? We can take on messages and we don't know that they're actually there. in our young adult age or as we grow older, but people pleasing, wanting to make happy, wanting to make people happy. Am I doing it right? Am I enough? Am I good enough? It seems like when I'm around other men, that seems to be a common thread for a lot of us. And I think part of that is we do, at least I say, I wanted to please my parents.
Yeah.
I wanted that. Now, I've got a sister that's 14 months younger than me. She didn't care. She didn't care if she pleased anybody. She was going to do what she wanted to do. And it was weird. They were 14 months apart in the same family. And so part of that, I think, is the way we're wired, coming out of the womb. So you wanted to go look at those things on the weekend. How did God show up on the weekend for you?
Well, coming from a military and law enforcement background, I'm fairly skeptical, right? So my radar was up and I was like, and Arnie just told me it was amazing how God puts people in your life that kind of help you get somewhere. And I remember Arnie just saying, trust the process, trust the process. And so I showed up ready to trust the process, but my radar was up and I'm watching these exercises and going through the work, and God showed up in major ways. I mean, I just have never experienced God like that before. And I would tell people that one of the things that Crucible Project does the best is create space for people to experience God in a different way.
And what ways did you experience God? How did he show up? What were some things he gave you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would tell you that I kind of jokingly say that I just turned 13 in the Lord. So I'm a teenager, right? Like I can say
Right.
I'm a teenager now. So I remind myself of it's been a short amount of time with the Lord, relatively speaking. And in those 13 years, I've experienced Him in major ways. But the Crucible Project created space for me to really just spend quiet time with Him and to listen to Him better, to be in community with other men going through their own, addressing their own wounds, their own brokenness. All of us, nobody having to fake it, nobody having to, in law enforcement, they call it the fight, flight, or posture syndrome, where
Mm,
we try to act like we got it all together. Or, no, I'm not really that broken. But the reality is nobody in that weekend felt like they had to prove anything to anybody else. We were
right.
all just there doing our own work together. And that made a big difference.
Yeah, and listening to God, did he give you a nugget about you? Did you get a truth about you that weekend?
Yeah, I already knew that I was a child of God, but it just reaffirmed it, right? It was that it's God wrapping his arms around you and saying, I love you more than you can even begin to understand.
Right. That's awesome. So as you've left the weekend, and then you said you did another weekend, the next one of our second levels. I can't believe you had the stamina to do it or the mental capacity. That's amazing. What has God given you since then that you can point back to saying, I think some of this is coming out of my crucible experience, some of this knowledge or thoughts? What have you gotten since?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I'll kind of clarify how that worked was the weekend just goes so fast and you don't get a chance to really interact with the guys, but you feel this community that I haven't felt since law enforcement military, right? Like I miss that camaraderie of those units and those teams that I served on. And I tell people that all the time. They always ask me, "Do you miss military and law enforcement?" And I miss the camaraderie. I
Mhm.
don't necessarily miss the work, but I miss the camaraderie. And I experienced a deeper level of camaraderie in such a short amount of time that I was like, is this real? Is this really true? This feels so different. And so I was like, I got to check this out and I got to figure out if this is real. And so I look and I see these second level weekends, and I had an 8-hour drive on the way home from my initial weekend. And so I listened to a lot of the Crucible Project podcast on the way home. First time I'd listened to it, I was like, I'm going to listen to this podcast. I don't know why I didn't listen to it beforehand, but I did after. And I was like, man, these men are sharing some wonderful things that really resonate with me. I think I need to go to a second level weekend. I live in Rapid City, which is 8 hours west of Minneapolis. And there's a second level weekend on leadership joy, which is something that I was really struggling with at the time. I really was having a hard time finding joy in leadership. And so I'm like, man, that sounds like it really would fit me. And so I think I should do that. And my wife was supportive of it too, which was amazing. She was like, if you need that, I support it. But I just want to give a shout out to John Casey, did an amazing job of making sure that I had the stamina and that wasn't trying to do too much too soon. And he really made sure that if I showed up, that it was because that's what God wanted and that I
Mm,
wasn't just coming because I was forcing it. And so that second level weekend on Leadership Joy helped out so much in taking my understanding of Crucible and community and soul work to a higher level. I came home, I was passionate about it. So this is a crazy story. Arnie Sharp was known number one in Rapid City, and he was the only one for several years. I get back from Crucible and I start talking about it, and Arnie's still talking about it, and we are now up to 14 in less than a year. We
Wow.
went from one known guy to 14 now. And one of our redwoods moved to Texas, so we would be at 15 if he had stayed. But it's just crazy to think how fast the men in this area were looking for this and how much they responded to it. So we've had guys go to two different initial weekends, and then I went to another second level weekend called the Mission Weekend in March of
Okay.
this last year. And the
Wow.
Mission Weekend was the one that really kind of tied everything together for me when you asked that question about how am I benefiting from Crucible. That Mission Weekend was exactly what I needed. I needed a weekend to really sit with God and figure out who he created me to be and how he's choosing to use me at any given time. And so that has just been instrumental.
Yeah. So you talked about, am I doing it right? Am I pleasing them? Am I getting it right? Those questions that you would have, you said before going in to your initial weekend. How are you now? Because I think for me, those things have never gone away. They're still, I want to get it right. I want to please people. I think I'll probably deal with that until I pass this earth. But how is it helping you navigate those things now? What tools have you had or what have you learned about you that help you when you get in that moment to know the real you and not worry about those other things?
Yeah, I would say Crucible Project is giving me some tools and some experiences to help me be Mary. When you think of Mary and Martha that were when Jesus came to visit them, I want to be Mary sitting at Jesus's feet and doing what he wants me to do, listening to him, talking to him about how he wants to use me, whatever that is. And so Crucible Project's been instrumental in helping me. It's been other pieces too, but it's amazing how everything kind of fits together as you go through this journey called life. And I would even say Crucible has helped me process my need for community, what healthy community looks like. I've gotten to visit Minneapolis a couple times. My sister's there, and I do some work in the Minneapolis area. So I've been able to stop in and see some of the men from my initial weekend on 3 different times, I think it is, where I've sat at on a Saturday morning at 6 AM, I think is when they start, and see them getting together and having that community. And I'm looking forward to that happening in Rapid City area. We're building community now, but we don't have any active groups happening, but we're getting close. And I'm looking forward to it because I've seen it. And it's so important for men to have that.
Yeah, Gordon, one of the things I love about this, and I'm going to give you a little clue into what we do here in the Houston area. Once a month,
Yeah.
we have a thing called a fire. And in Houston, we're having one it's here in July. So this is when we're talking. We're not going to actually light a fire because the sun is our fire right now because it is so hot. But what we do is we invite uninitiated men once a month to a fire. We'll have light snacks, we'll have drinks, and we'll visit for a little bit. And then initiated and uninitiated men that haven't done the crucible, we get in a circle and we do a check-in. And what's blown me away is these uninitiated men who have never done our weekends, they will open up because they so want community. They desire a place to speak their truth and talk about what's hard. Every time I've been blown away that how much men want to be seen and be heard and be able to be real. And I think that's what I love about the community that we have.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love hearing about what's happening in other areas too, because I'm definitely going to consider doing that here in our area because I use the check-in process in a team meeting of my team. And I saw that same thing. Men and women that didn't know what a check-in was, but I explained it and they were like, thanks for setting that table and inviting me into that conversation, right? Giving me that
Right,
opportunity to share what I'm going through.
right. Because it doesn't feel safe to do that for some reason, and yet we all need it and want it. So God's been moving in your life. That's so cool. 13 years walking with the Lord. And so one of the things that you do is this thing called Navigators. And you know what? You're going to teach me what is Navigators and what do you guys do?
Okay, so as I try to explain what this looks like, I'm going to tell you that I'm kind of a little bit of a unicorn. I'm different than many traditional navigators. The navigators have been around since 1933, and Dawson Troutman and Billy Graham actually worked together for several of those early years. And so they knew of each other, and Billy Graham and Dawson Troutman would have discussions about Billy being an evangelist and Dawson Troutman being a disciple maker. And so they would work together as a team. The core DNA of the navigators is that we believe in life-to-life discipleship. deep relationship with each other, helping each other get grounded in a personal and deep relationship with Jesus Christ. We're most commonly known for being on military bases or college campuses, but we are all over the world and we work in a lot of different contexts. So when I was young, coming to Christ, God got my attention at 40. I just had this hunger for knowledge and understanding of who God was because I knew what it looked like to have. I was a professing Christian. I would attend church every once in a while, but I did not have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. In fact, it was a short-term mission trip that he drew me in on. And I remember at the age of 40 sitting in that church and going, what is a short-term mission trip? I don't even know what a mission trip is, short or long. I don't know what this is. And I could feel God using that as a tractor beam to spend time with him personally. And so when I came alive and I'm starting to seek that relationship with Jesus, I didn't have navigators in my area. And I was doing internet searches for discipleship ministries. And everything that God kept putting me on was the navigators, that deep life to life discipleship. That's what we focus on the most.
Wow. And so, what does that look like for you guys and navigators? You work for them now. What does that look like?
Yeah, so every navigator is focused on discipleship in the context that God puts them in. And so we call them missions, but we have the military mission, the collegiate mission, the world missions. We have a ministry or mission called Disciple Makers for Life, which is the one that I started with. And Disciple Makers for Life is where you live, where you work, where you worship, where you play. It's got a neighbor's ministry, a 20s ministry, a church ministry, all these different contexts that we can be present and available in and helping people grow in their relationship with Jesus. And so my first year in the Navigators, I was a D4L generalist, which we don't do that a whole lot, but I didn't want to pick a certain, I love the church, I love the neighbors, I love the workplace, I love so many of them that we work in Disciple Makers for Life that my supervisor didn't make me pick, but then my supervisor was going on sabbatical. So I had to get reassigned to a different supervisor. And I was at our national staff gathering, which only happens every 4 years. And I heard a presentation on what's called missional enterprise. And missional enterprise is for our businesses and business leaders that want to pursue God in the marketplace or in the
Mhm.
business world. And I'm very entrepreneurial. I love seeing God do new things. And so I was like, God just like laid it on me. This is your team. And the cool thing about the navigators is we can move within teams. So God can say, hey, I want you to go do this, or I want you to go do that. And it can all be done inside the navigator. So that's one of the things that I love about us is that we're in a lot of different contexts. We're in a lot of different places doing a lot of different work, but the focus is discipleship.
That's awesome. And so one of the things that I try to tell men all the time is that Crucible did two things for me. One, it allowed me to know who I was in God because I had a very distorted view of that going in. And I was a minister and had done ministry for years, but was still just struggling with who I was. So it helped me unpack some of the wounds, but it helped me in my discipleship and that I think I started seeing myself the way that God sees me and the way God wanted to see me. I really did step into grace, full of truth and full of grace because I didn't believe my truth could be held. So how has Crucible helped you or moved you or helped you navigate your discipleship as well?
Yeah, thank you for saying that because that's one of the core things I wanted to get across is one of the things I love about Dawson Troutman, the founder of the Navigators, and he wasn't worried about founding a ministry. He was working with Wycliffe and Mission Aviation Fellowship and a bunch of different ministries. He just specialized in discipleship. And what I've seen now is, let's say I was 2.5 years into my Navigator journey and I get exposed to this Crucible Project thing and I go, wow, this helped me so much. Because no ministry, in my opinion, no individual has everything other than Jesus, right? And so we see different things at different times that help us grow closer to God. And
Right.
so that's what the Crucible Project did for me is I'm in a discipleship ministry, but it gave me discipleship tools and discipleship experiences that we don't specialize in. And that's why it's good for us to put our heads up sometimes and look around and say, how might God want to teach me something new? And that's what Crucible Project has done for me is, and I'm very much looking forward to, I'm hoping to serve this fall. I'm hoping to either go to Minneapolis or serve in Wyoming or Colorado. So it gives you that opportunity to come back and be involved in other men's journey. I love that. I just absolutely love that. The second level weekends give you those tools to dig deeper into those areas of growth that you know God has for you. And I'm looking forward to finishing out sexuality and leadership dark side. But it's the continued growth. It's just the opportunity to continue to learn and grow. That's what means the most to me when it comes to Crucible. And that's why I'm hoping that anybody that has Navigator experiences out there that doesn't know about Crucible Project can say, "Oh, I never thought about doing that." Or a Navigator might be working with somebody and say, "Hey, that might benefit the person I'm serving or working with, that maybe we could go together or maybe they could go separate." I just want to throw in, I have 2 teenage boys. They'll be 18 and 21 this fall, and they have both expressed interest in going to Crucible this fall.
I love
And
it.
I am so blessed to think that they're interested in taking that journey. And
Yeah.
I know that we're gonna be able to talk about things at a deeper level once they've experienced that I wouldn't be able to get there with them otherwise.
Yeah, because I think what man, I love that. That's so beautiful. My 28-year-old son did it a couple of years ago, and it was awesome. And I told him, "Dude, whatever work you need to do it, because I realize that I have probably wounded you and not on purpose, but that's okay because I don't feel shame around that anymore. It's just life. We just do life. And I don't carry shame around, or it's just I did the best I could." And what has helped me in that in my relationship is it's given me a grace to believe and really believe that my mom and dad did the best they could. Like, as I
Yep.
start looking at people, I think Crucible has helped me give grace in deeper ways because my mom was wounded. She was raised by a alcoholic mother, overbearing dad. My dad was raised in a very strict fundamental church home and was wounded there. And they were wounded and their parents were wounded. I mean, but yet there was grace and love too. So anyway, I love that. I love that your sons want to do that.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that too, Andy, because one of the podcasts that really sticks out to me is John Casey spoke about self-compassion. And he talked about when you've experienced radical grace, then you can pass that on to others the way God would
Yeah.
want you to.
Absolutely, and I was talking to a man at church this past Sunday, and he was talking about something, and I said, "Here's something that I've learned is God speaks the truth of who we are, and I want us to listen to what God has to say to us, because Satan is the liar that comes in and distorts that, and so if we can learn to live in the truth of who God says we are, then we can give ourselves grace in that, because Satan wants to distort that grace and make it just an ugly thing and make it hard for us to walk with Jesus." As you think about what God means to you and what you want other people to know about God through your navigator's work, through Crucible, through other things you've done, and just share what you believe to be true about our great God and his son Jesus.
Wow, thank you for that question, because that's what it's all about, right? Like, it's not about ourselves, it's about God. I was just reading today 2 Corinthians 4, verse 5, about it's not about us, it's about him. And what I would share is, in my 13 years of walking with the Lord, I just can't even imagine how much he loves me
Mhm.
and how much he just wants me to stay with him and trust him in everything. And so I interact with men in the business world, in the missions world, in the recovery world, and there's just so many lies out there, like you said. There's so much confusion and such distorted truth, and I just God is the answer. God loves us, and he built us for a reason, and he has a purpose for us. He has a mission for us. But at the same time, having been somebody that's always a doer, we don't have to prove that. We don't have to earn that love. That's what I would make sure to say too, is because I come from that warrior background too, right? Where we just feel like I would die for my family, for my community, but we don't know why. We don't know why we have that heart to serve others that way. We don't know why we're willing to do that. And I've even done some deeper work with some people inside the Navigators for myself and some of the lies that I've been listening to. And I want to get it done. I want to fix things. I want to move on. And one of the navigators that was counseling me in a way said, you're trying to hurry this lifelong 3 mile per hour journey." Why?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
just enjoy the journey. Just walk with God, whatever he has for you. That's probably what I would really want to say, is just trust God, walk with him. Don't try to fix things. Just receive his love, mercy, and grace and pass it on the way he would want you to.
Man. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a doer too. And every once in a while, I tell people that I feel like I'm dragging God along with me because I'm doing. And then I have to stop and get behind him and let him lead.
Yeah. But I don't want to drag my feet either. And I
Right.
tell people too, like, whenever I feel like life is hard, I tell people life is hard, it's reality. But when you feel out of alignment with God or you feel like this just doesn't feel right, what I do oftentimes is I lift my head up and I look around and I realize I just strayed off his path just enough that I'm not where he wants me to be, or I'm not focused on him anymore. I've done it, taken it on my own strength, right? Or done it my own way, or tried to make something happen that he wasn't ready to have happen. It's so easy to just get a foot or two off that path and then
Yeah,
be like, this makes no sense right now.
absolutely. So, Gordon, there may be a man or a woman listening to this podcast. What would you say to them if they're saying, man, I don't know if I want to do this crucible thing or not? What would you say to them?
This is a common saying I use, not a lot, but that question really brings this to mind. I've never regretted giving God time,
Mm,
right? I've never regretted seeking God in the moment or in the weekend or in the journey. I've never regretted that. And so Crucible Project is one of those opportunities where if you feel like, man, I think I might need to do this, or there might be something I could learn from this, or there might be something I could experience in this that I may not have ever experienced before, step into it.
mm,
Don't doubt it, right? Like we won't regret these. I get emotional sometimes. I just want to say that at 40 years old, I was towards the end of my law enforcement career. I did the Army National Guard while I was in the law enforcement too, but I was at the end of my law enforcement career at the age of 40. And I remember not being able to, not crying about anything. And now that I seek God, I just get emotional all the time. Like I just start talking about Jesus and I get emotional and it's good. And I love it. And I love when God moves on me. And so what I'm going to say to you is, because I could feel it coming, I was working in a recovery home and I'm still involved in it. We called it a discipleship house. But there was a man that we were like looking for who should go to Crucible. And there was a man that was like on the Tuesday before the Crucible weekend. He's like, hey, could I go? One of the leaders said, hey, I think that ship has sailed. And he came to me really offended. And he was like, hey, I'm just grasping for the Lord's hem. And I said, brother, then go. Put in for it. And if God wants you to go, you'll get there. And he got there and he got so much out of it. But he was like 3 days before. And I think I was like 5 days before when I saw that this weekend was coming up and it was the weekend. I think I waited until like, I felt like the very end, but I was like, I feel like I need to go. And I pulled the trigger right at the end and I went to my second level weekend, right? Like 3 days before it. So what I'm getting at is, if you're feeling that pull, if you're feeling that draw, don't fight it. Just
right.
lean into it. Go for it, right?
Yeah.
We won't regret it. I've never seen anybody spend time with the Lord and regret it.
Man,
That's what I would say.
that is so good. I agree. I agree. Yeah, we've had men sign up the day before. We've had men sign up the day of, and we've said, come on. So it's worth it.
That's what I love about Crucible Project is we're making space for men to experience God in a different
Right.
way. In my
Right.
humble opinion, that's what we're doing. And then we're walking with them after it. So I just would say that that's another thing that I really value about Crucible Project is they specialize in the weekend, but the relationships are for a lifetime. That initiation, that redwood, that
Right.
groups, those get-togethers. My wife is a redwood now too. She was like, I'm not sure I need this, but I said, well, just be open-minded to it. And she went. And now she's served too. She's done an initiation and she's served and she's gotten so much out of it. And so what I was getting at is the Colorado community is an open picnic for everyone initiated and like August 8th, I think it is. And we're like, we're going. That's 6-hour drive for us, but we're going because
I
we
love
just
it.
want to be around other initiated men and women and continue our relationship with the community.
Man, I love that. And it's the radical grace, radical honesty, radical truth that I haven't found anywhere else. And it's made a difference in my life. Well, man, Gordon, I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much for taking time today. Come to Houston and serve. Maybe I'll get up to Minnesota sometime. But we'd love to have you down here.
I would love to, man. I'm very much a connector and encourager, and that's why I was looking forward to getting the word out of that I'm in Western South Dakota and that the community here is growing, but I want to be part of what's going on in other communities as well. So I do look forward to the opportunity to serve sometime together.
I love it. Hey, in December, we've got a weekend in December. That's the time to come to Texas.
I agree. I've heard that before. I did some training in Oklahoma, and so I know that heat down there.
Yes, you do. All right, man. Hey, thank you so much for your time. God bless.
For more information about our weekends, please go to thecrucibleproject.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rate and review wherever you are listening and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Thank you for listening.